Hey, welcome into Tony Talks Trash About Music. Wanted to let you guys fill you in on something. We did the Zappa originally as one piece here, our Zappa ranking video, but it turned out it was a little bit long, it was over an hour. So what we're going to do is cut this in half. We've got editing this part into it. And we really appreciate you guys tuning in. And so here we present part one of our Zappa ranking the records, Tony Talks Trash About Music. Thank you guys for tuning in. Well, my people, welcome into Tony Talks Trash About Music. And tonight, there's only so many of these that really hold a special place. Anybody who knows me and knows my life and knows my interests, this artist tonight is one of the building blocks of, everything of my philosophy. Everything in life has had so much to do with it. I'm talking about the great Frank Vincent Zappa, born near Harvard of Grace in Baltimore, up, I guess, local, not too local to here, a couple hours away or so, whatever. But ended up then out in California in the desert. Moves into Los Angeles and wreaks his havoc on the rest of the world. And unique vision the whole way through, really with a disdain for jazz, although, being coming from the classical, although, blowing a lot like jazz and improvisation playing a huge part of what he does. Frank Zappa to me is, like music, like the air. I mean, I've seen there's so many great things on YouTube to look about with some of the old players and the great bands. And, I'm going to have a follow-up video here. I did see some other things that I like to talk about. But tonight, yes, I'm going to count down all these Frank Zappa things. So you have to pull up a chair and maybe pull up a pillow. But we're going to get through this stuff, and I'm going to go through the Frank Zappa catalog. There are a couple that are not on vinyl that I do not have on vinyl, obviously. So we're going to try to get things going on vinyl completely. I'm going to try to rapidly move through this. There's reasons that some of these are at the bottom. Every Frank Zappa record they say is a decent record. This, unfortunately, is the last one. I have 51 records that I'm going to rate, and number 51 is going to be Francesco Zappa. You say, what is Francesco Zappa? Well, it's probably a pretty rare record. This is an old composer that Frank Zappa found with the name Francesco Zappa, the music of Francesco Zappa, who was from 1763 to 1788, his first digital recording. They basically digitized the written music that they found. There's information in here, it's a whole thing about the musical themes. Francesco Zappa, this nice thing inside. Nice record, but really, this was in the time I remember there was a bunch of recordings at the same time and a bunch of releases, and this was really a head scratcher. I mean, I know he wanted to do this, and maybe he felt some kind of a obligation or would be some kind of shtick to it, but there really was anything except for this record, and I just find it very baffling. Let's move on from the baffling to the downright offensive and borderline racist Thingfish, which is 1950. Which is number 50. It was from 1984. This is it's a slew of these records. 84 is Francesco Zappa as well. Some of the stuff that's reworked on this, it was a original cast recording, supposedly to be on Broadway, including, Thingfishes coming down and dripping piss because they're incontinent all over the audience. To God, they wouldn't use real piss. But Terry Bozzio, Dale Bozzio, of course, and some sexual nymph fantasy. And you got Harry as a boy, and then the Evil Prince and Brown Moses. Oh my God. It's just, some of it's good. I mean, the songs that are in here, the music is not that bad. But the themes in it, about it being all, with a black accent and the napkin growing out of the body and stuff. It's ridiculous, and it also revisits a lot of his music anyway. So I guess it's an attempt to try to get through it, some of the Them or Us material. There's a couple new things on there, like the theme, the Mammy Nuns, and a couple other things is pretty good. They played live. Have a couple good live recordings of it in Europe from '82. But the truth of it is it wasn't really needed. And those are two records, suppose, at the bottom of that, but they both came from the same time period. You're really excited to be able to get this stuff. Let's go on. to 1979, and the third of the bizarre substitute for lather records that came out, orchestral favorites. And you see the Gary Panter cover, kind of probably the worst of the three. Strictly Gentile, Pedro's Dowry. A lot of this stuff was done with the L.A. Philharmonic. I think it was done for some live things. Duke of Prunes, Bogus Pomp. There's a guitar solo on Duke of Prunes, but there's a lot of mistakes on this record. Frank says he doesn't think it's very accurate. It was very well done. Some of this stuff may have made it in. Pedro's Dowry, Naval Aviation and Art probably would have made it in. Some of the other stuff, Strictly Gentile, and some of the performance of these stuff, is probably under par. Let's go on to the next record, and a lot of people are going to be offended by this, but a lot of this is because of defensive record, lyrics like Magdalena, and the version of Colony Vegetable is good. Billy the Mountain's good. I don't mind it, but it's kind of during this period of time, you're either in the camp that you think it rocked out. Here's the stuff with Cal Schenkel inside. You see him working on stuff. But he did the whole, you see some of those sequences done with this. Magdalena, Dog Breath is good. Eddie, Are You Kidding? The whole bit about, the polyester pants. And it's funny. It's good. I mean, it's an LA thing. And, again, kind of an inside joke, but there was a lot of that with that Flo and Eddie band and a lot of that with that 70s stuff that I think, they emphasize a lot of the comedic stuff over the music. But suffice to say, don't throw shade on that era of the band too much, because that era of the band is going to be rewarded in a big way later. That was number 48. Number 47, I'm going to go with the monotonous thing. And you could say maybe in Dylan, when Dylan did, hey. Well, I think Frank kind of did a lot of that on this record. Some of this record's great. It depicts the riots over in Sicily, on the tour in 1982. But this record, Man from Utopia, just completely different. Mogio's fantastic. Mogio's great on this thing. Sex, Stick Together, the Jazz Discharge Party Hat's kind of ha joke. Talking about women's panties, however much that entertains you, that's fine. We Are Not Alone, to me, it's kind of I don't know. It doesn't sound like it's really enough for a Zappa song. The Radio's Broken's kind of funny. Tink Walks Amok is different. But the Dangerous Kitchens, Cocaine Decision, I gotta love this. You look like a dork. You look like a double butt rash door. I mean, to me, it was funny, but it kind of wore thin, and I think he was trying to. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't say. Let's talk to the other one, the one with the mistakes. Bogus Pomp, the version of London Symphony Orchestra Volume 2. Here you've got Bob and Dacron, which is the only version of it. I know Frank was not happy with it. Strictly Gentile here. But it's the second of the Kent Nagano records. This is the one that put out here, but there's all kind of problems here. He talks about the mistakes were made, and some of it he attributes to, I think, them having too many beers over at the pub between recording this. Nevertheless, rock and roll, Frank, right? He just wanted accuracy. People wonder why he moves towards the sync liver. Those are the kind of things that will push you there when you pay a lot of money and you don't get an accurate performance. Let's go next to the wonderful soundtrack, which I do not have. Joe, put up here now. I don't know what happened to it. I have it somewhere. It is the picture disc for Baby Snakes. Baby Snakes. Frank Zappa, the soundtrack. Problem with this record is material's good. Bozio's real good on it. It is just absolutely poorly recorded, and you get the same kind of sound from, I guess, mics on the stage, some way. But it's amazing to me that they would have this level of recording when the band had already visited the heights of good production before. But nevertheless, that's what I have. I have it at number 45. I don't think it should have been out as a record, but kind of was a novelty record that they sold originally at shows. I remember seeing it first with the Black Napkins picture disc at the Pittsburgh show, I guess in the late 70s. Let's move on to number 44. And to me, has always been, and I'll tell you the truth, the disappointing Broadway, the hard way. I just think this is a picture of, in I think Washington, D.C., one of the things inside one of the theaters. Beautiful Warner Theater. Facts are stupid things. You see the inside thing that was on the Barfco Swill, a lot of the Barfco Swill stuff. But you've got the whole thing. You always left the building, Planet of the Baritone Women, Any Kind of Pain, Jesus Thinks You're a Jerk, which got some beauty to it. A Promiscuous Rhyming Man, The Untouchables. Dickie's such an asshole. And I think on the CD version of this, you get the Sting Murdered by Numbers thing. It's not on the regular record, I don't think. But that's, for Broadway the hard way, that's 1988. Certainly to me, and underwhelming. For the first time ever, it sounded like Frank was somehow with the arrangements or whatever, not coasting, but there was not enough in that. Later on in the tour, you got to hear some of the, Pound for Brown, so they get to go off a lot on that 88 tour. And we'll talk a little bit about some other things that burned my ass from the Zappa Family Trust, who I think has grossly mishandled the Frank Zappa situation. Emphasizing shtick. I mean, all these new releases and all these things. You don't even have Make a Jazz Noise out here on vinyl. You don't have Best Band You Never Heard in Your Life on vinyl. You certainly don't have one of the greatest records ever, Civilization Phase 3. You don't have that on vinyl. But we have room for all this other stuff. It's just mismanaged and misguided. Nobody wants new things that you want. They want what he wanted first. And so it just burns me. But let's move down to 1970. Another one of the borderline flow into these things. My number 43 is Chunga's Revenge. And some people rate this a little bit higher. Transylvania Boogie, Road Ladies, kind of a Nancy and Mary music, okay. Would You Go All the Way is great. Charlene, of course, is the best song on this record. This has a nice Schenkel drawing here in the middle. Just take a look at this for a second. Great record. You have to have it, of course. It's to me substantively not as much as it was before. I like some of the other stuff better. That comes after it. So let's talk about what that is. Well, I'm going to move it up one more, and what that is going to be 1971. Shark. 1971. Little House Used to Live In's great. Wanna Dick is great. Latex Solar Beak. But let's. It's sexual, childish humor, most of this is. And I like when the music gets in there, like Tears Begin to Fall. I love that song. They put out as Junior Mints Boogie or whatever. Do You Like My New Car? Willie the Pimp. And Don Preston solo's decent, but Peaches on Regalia, decent version there. But, in the bootleg type of a cover. But, yeah, great record. But, there's a lot of great records. And let's move on to the next one, the 1960s vocal panache, or however you call it, pache, on Verve Records, Cruising with Ruben and the Jets. I like a lot of this record. No, 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 I like a lot. Jelly Roll Gumdrop. How Could I Be Such a Fool? Anything's really nice. Stuff Up the Cracks. You Didn't Try to Call Me is really nice version. I can't say what's wrong or what's right. I like it. There's a lot of good stuff with this. There's a lot of good stuff with this record. But really, you have to scratch your head at the time. Why did they do it? Frank has always wanted to present himself in a number of different ways, and this certainly is one. Cruising to Ruben and the Jets, which, as you know, Ruben and the Jets would put out a record later on Mercury, an actual band called Ruben and the Jets. But let's move on now to another one I do not have on vinyl, and that's the 1986 CD, Does Humor Belong in Music? Does humor belong in music? Of course, humor belongs in music. You've got the Hot Plate Heaven at the Green Hotel on this. You have a fantastic version of Let's Move to Cleveland. Really a great record and a fantastic CD. Once again, they use all 80 minutes of the program to bring it to you. But unfortunately, as far as I know, not on vinyl yet. One of the ones that's not on vinyl now, that's not really the record company's fault. I don't think Zappa even maybe owns the rights to it now. But it would be nice to have that too. That's nice for people who like vinyl as a way of life. Let's move on to number 39. Maybe controversial. It used to be Crush All Boxes. We're talking about 10th Town Rebellion, baby. 1980, Fine Girl, Easy Meat with a fantastic Call of You to Freak Out, middle with he's playing all the Now You See It, Now You Don't, another great one there. Blue Light, Pick Me On Clean, I love the solo on that. Great version of Peaches on here. Very dynamic. I have a beautiful copy of this here, man. This is sticky almost. Brand spanking new. Tinseltown Rebellion. A Tinseltown Rebellion band. Anyway, they went out and they played live. And there's some great ones in late 1980 on this tour. But there were also some great ones with David Logeman as well, but just a different kind of a drummer than Vinnie Colaiuta at that time. Let's move on to the next one, and that's going to be the first one, and albeit because it's flawed again. Then the London Symphony Orchestra, Sad Jane, Pedro's Dowry, which is a hard version. That probably has a lot of the mistakes in it. Envelopes, good version of it here. Moan Herb's Vacation, some of that has some cluttered problems here. But it is nevertheless recorded on 3 days, and they try to talk about what happened here. Every effort was made, but Frank was really not happy, I think, in the end with the result. And I love the record. I don't know how much demand there was for this, but I always loved a lot of Frank's classical stuff, and I think it's really very apparent in some of the larger works that he had. How much of a technical classical person he was as well. When we go on from that period of time, let's go on to the first Synclavier record that they had, and that is the Porn Wars Associated Mothers of Prevention, the PMRC on this all over the place. They talk about this. We're turning again. Alien Orifice, which is an Ace instrumental. Yo Cats, What's New in Baltimore, which is always good. But this version's okay. I have better versions on this where they had What's New in Baltimore going into Mogio. A really good version on the 89 Ritz, I think it was, or the 81 Ritz version. Really good. And then the second one here, the second side here is all Little Bass Samba, which is good. Porn Wars, which again is okay. Aerobics and Bondage, probably my favorite of the three, but it's the beginning of the Synclavier music that Frank made. We also have, I believe, a European version of this, and I'll show you here when we have another one of these follow-up videos. So we're talking about Meets the Mothers of Prevention. That's from 1985, and that is my number 37. At number 36, I'm not going to go far away. I'm going to go back to another one of the records here. There was released in 1984, and probably the best of the ones. We'll talk about the others. Them Or Us, although it's not completely satisfactory. I saw some shows up for this record up around the pier in New York about that time. My friend John and I went up and had a good time, and it was before actually I had met my wife. I was going up to New York for the first time, but you've got Them Or Us, Sinister Footwear too, which is a really cheeky deal with him. Whipping Post, Them Or Us. In France, The Closer You Are, a version of Charlena, and then Baby Take Your Teeth Out. Marcuson's Chicken is also probably one that you'd say is an outstanding record as far as the prog performance goes. Let's move on to number 35, and that is the David Logeman aided Beauty Knows No Pain, dun, 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 which is a really good set. I mean, when you look at this record, Teenage Went Harder Than Your Husband, they played these in on the live. You played these in groups. You can say like pods. The theme from the third movement of Sinister Footwear, though, is very, very special. Society Pages, I'm a Beautiful Guy. Here's some stuff about Zappa's talking about. I think it's the guarantee on here, right? Say Cheese talking about the different stuff. You got a lot of people on here. I'm a Beautiful Guy. Beauty Knows No Pain. Charlie's Enormous Mouth. Probably the best side on here. Your Art You Is. Everybody knows about the video. Mud Club. Dumb All Over, which is fantastic. Jumbo Go Away. If Only She Would Have. Yeah, really good record. Really good live thing. David Logeman, for some reason, is subdued a little bit in his drumming in this record. Doesn't mean that it's not as good as the others, but it does mean that some of the being the fact that it's kind of song based, it's a little bit weird. And here it is, man, the advertisement for "Shut Up and Play Your Guitar," and this was the thing that we answered and ended up getting, and was magnificent. Changed my life, really. Polyrhythmically, I'd never heard that much blatant. I've never heard that much blatant playing over the bar, and as he and Hollywood or he and Bozio and some of the different players have done before. I was just really excited by the improvisational aspects, especially when Frank soloed. Really, really, really good stuff. Let's move on to 34, and I'm going to move to 1982, Ship Arriving Too Late to Save a Drowning Witch, the introduction of Chad Wackerman, the introduction of Scott Tunis, Bobby Martin, Ray White, Steve Vai, some other people on this. Valley Girl, of course, a big hit off this. No, Not Now. I come from nowhere. Envelopes, of course, fabulous version. Drowning Witch, which was had the real long portion. I'd first heard on the Ritz I didn't first hear the Ritz. I heard on this, but then I heard on the Ritz version. It was really exciting. You had those guys playing all those polyrhythmic things, and they're really, really nice. But anyway, that is number. What did I say with that, man? I said that was number 34. For number 33, we're going to move into the next. We are going to move into Frankie Heek. Freak Out, the initial record, 1966, double album release, stunning everybody. Setting out their territory as we're going to be the weirdos here. I've got a good version. I got a mono and stuff version of it, but if you look at the end here, it talks about where to send to get your freak map and stuff. That's one of the things I think was in the mystery box originally. But yeah, man, they're on Verve Records, and I got two of them here. But yeah, I got two versions of this at least. I got three of them. So I don't want Bart to look at this and read, because he's asking me all the time, do I have another version of these? I don't like to give them up. I'm like him, I feel the same way. Yeah, here's the second one that I have. All right, we're going to talk about that one. That is the great Freak Out, and we're going to go now to number 32, which is the record right after it. The absolutely sublime, absolutely free. Brown shoes don't make it. Susie Cream Cheese, oh baby, now what's got into you? Just something else. America Drinks and Goes Home. Calling Vegetable, Plastic People, Uncle Bernie's Farm. Yeah, man. Yeah. And I got them all out here. Look at this. Dun, da-da. I'm not gonna give it up. Anyway, I'm happy to have it. Yellow label mono. And it just sickens you when you see the video back then of Zappa and Jimmy Carl Black ripping all those records up and stuff. Ay. But yeah, we've got Absolutely Free, and that Absolutely Free is a second record by the Mothers of Invention all the way back in 1967, and is number 32. For number 31, I'm going to go to the extremely stripped down Zoot Allures, when the band was reduced to Frank, Eddie Jobson some, Burley Terry, and Pat O'Hearn. And it's a really stripped down record. You've got some pop stuff here that really born itself with the Andre Lewis band. And he may be on some of this stuff. And Davey Morey's on this, Napoleon Murphy Brock's back here. Torture Never Stops. Finer, Don Bleed is on there, singing on the Finer, which surprises me. Andre Lewis does play on Disco Boy, and that's a big one on here, Disco Boy. But you've got the great song Zoot Allures and Black Napkins. There's really some really great stuff here. And Miss Pinky, of course, got some play in Disco Boy. It's kind of a pop record that was aimed at a certain audience. Frank being really playing up the sexual angle here with this thing. And that's the 1976, some say underrated, Zoot Allures. I'm going to go now to kind of a low position, if you know me really well, one of these improvisational records, Frank Zappa guitar. This is when Benny's out of the way. This is with Chad Wackerman, which you've got Sexual Harassment, Work-Based Republicans Do Not Pass Go. Once Again Without the Net, the original solo of Outside Now, that does have Benny on it. But you've got a lot of these different ones. Sunrise Redeemers. These are, again, captured live solos from other songs and renamed and rechristened something else with some kind of processing or whatever added to it. But this is what this is. And if you look at these records and you look at this is Frank Zappa here. And you don't see this record an awful lot. This is something that's, this is the second one of the two. This is after the successful Shut Up and Play Your Guitar. This one came out. They figured, well, we got one. Let's go for another one. So that's what they did. They did the second volume because they knew they had an audience for it because people ate up the first one, especially drummers and guitar players, because there's nothing but the rest of the band kind of holding things down and drummer and a guitar player really having fun and playing leapfrogs and jumping over each other and such. And that's, I thought it was fabulous. I mean, to me, it was very exciting. I mean, Vinny and especially what Vinny and Frank did when I saw them a few times, especially I remember one time at Pittsburgh, I saw 2 shows with that band, and they lit it up, man. Frank and he, every show would get into this period of time for about 10 minutes, or not even 10 minutes, maybe less than that. But a lot of it was off that song, Johnny Can't Read, that they said. It was a solo, really, I think, in The Torture Never Stops or something. But, and that's on Zulu Wars also. So if you look at that, there's a lot more worth on that record. Why I rated so low, I don't know. Maybe because there's other great records too. But let's talk about after Guitar 88. We're going to be at number 29, and this has to go somewhere, man. You're going to say, oh, why is this here? Well, it's Joe's Garage. I love Joe's Garage. Great record. 1979, I'll never forget hearing this for the first time. Really good with Cruise Slut, Catholic Girls, Wet T-Shirt Night. But again, a lot of sexual innuendo. Central Scrutinizer thing is great. I got to tell you, I pissed my pants on 2 and 3. I mean, some of the stuff's it's really funny. But this is the band with Denny Wally, Warren Cucurulo. They got the booklet inside here with the pages and saying what's going on here, Frank. I'll show you here the whole story of the Central Scrutinizer and all this stuff inside here. And the way it would go on. And this hell of a concept, but it's a funny concept. But why does it hurt when I pee? Total Line, which is some of my favorite, so it's a little bit loosened up solo there. But I remember hearing this and happy that he's on Zappa Records. This is kind of after the whole debacle with Lather and the 3 records that he'd released there with the Studio Tan, Sleep Dirt, and which all had some good material. And Orchestral Favorites, of course, which had some stuff he really didn't want to release. And I think the Poly Pavilion stuff, I think, is where it's from. Let's go on to the next one, number 28. 28 tonight is Weasels Rip My Flesh, Mothers of Invention, kind of an archival record, but released during it. Did You Get Me On? You're really kind of annoying stuff. Toads in the Short Forest, beautiful. But a lot of the singing and a lot of the atonal stuff, Get a Little's pretty good. But the Weasels Rip My Flesh at the end is just, with the feedback, it's pretty cool. And the thing of it's funny that it follows the beauty of Orange County Lumber Truck and Oh No. Dwarf Nebulous, beautiful. Eric Dolphy Memorial Barbecue. So really important music on this. Why do I have it so low? Hell, I don't know. I had to put something somewhere. So, I mean, I know other times that I had it high. I know my friend and I, John, used to rate all the time. But that's number 28 now at this point. Should it be higher, maybe? Yeah, probably a little bit higher. Should it be above this next one? Maybe a little higher. Depends on the day. And I'm talking about the participation of It's been cut and pointed. Captain Beefheart here. Bongo Fury, the great Captain Beefheart drinking a milkshake, and Frank Zappa eating an ice cream cone. Bongo Fury live at the Armadillo World headquarters in Texas. And Frank, at the point of this time, they're taking this picture, was not happy. Deborah Cadabra, Hardcore Ecstasy, of course, the legendary Muffin Man. Cucamonga, Advanced Romance, the songs that would have a good life live. And the weird stuff with it, Beefheart says, well, I was knee high to a grasshopper. This black juice came out on a hard shell chin. Anyway, I love it, man. 1975's Bizarre Bongo Fury. One of 2 great records from 1975, and that is number 27. Let's go now to number 26 here. And number 26 is going to be a tasty little sucker. The second of the archival records is the burnt weenie sandwich. God, this is a tasty little sucker, Ian Underwood says. But you have pictures here of the band going through what they're going through. Little house I used to live in, great composition. ABC is on here. Igor's Boogie, WPLJ. You know, it's kind of sandwiched on Bizarre. It's on Bizarre Records. It's kind of sandwiched with these 50 songs. WPLJ, and then the last one is Valerie. So, but that's what you got. ABC's nice. Holiday in Berlin, full blown, and talking about the near riot that they had in Berlin when the Mothers played there. But this is Burnt Weenie Sandwich, and this is a record that is technically from 1970, and the recordings a little bit before that. But that's the early band there, and kind of the end of that era with that Burnt Weenie Sandwich. Hey, this is the edited part. This is the end of our part 1 of the Zappa ranking video. Make sure you guys remember to subscribe and leave your comments below, leave your list below. There's a lot of things to say about Frank Zappa, a lot of different music, a lot of people's favorites. So we do appreciate you tuning in, and we will check you next time on the second part of this video.